start with some wonderful news before we get to the nitty-gritty. I think you know what I mean. So, the King has returned to duty, and it seems that the doctors are incredibly happy with his progress. And whilst he has been diagnosed with cancer, last week he announced 2 engagements, one of which was visiting a cancer diagnostic centre, which he visits this week. Good on Charles, selfless in his service, unlike Prince Harry. Next week is a big, dangerous week for Prince Harry as he flies to the UK with his downgraded security. Hardly, or should I say, it's his first visit to the UK after he lost his High Court appeal on his security arrangements. In the way he went on about it, you'd think that he was given no protection whatsoever. That simply isn't true. His round-the-clock police protection was removed because he's no longer a working royal, his own choice. But he will still have security. Besides, doesn't he fly pretty much everywhere on private jet these days? He's as safe as houses. He was just spitting his dummy out of the pram over all of this because I suspect it dawned on him that a privilege he's enjoyed all his life, which he clearly didn't appreciate, has changed. A reminder to him that he's royal by birth but no longer by duty. Well, he's coming to the UK next week for the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games and to attend a ceremony at St Paul's for injured service personnel. Now, his wife, Meghan, won't be joining him. Oh, what a shame. Thank God. Awful woman. I've never met her, by the way, but I'm just going on. I'm going on what I've seen in her behaviour. I mean, who doesn't go and see a dying father who, by all counts, was tricked by the press? She invited people like Oprah to a wedding who she clearly never met. And then, surprise, surprise, she's on Oprah whilst Prince Philip lay dying. Oh, don't get me started on all of that, please. Meghan Markle has reportedly said that she's done with Britain. I think we were done with you first. She will unite with Prince Harry in Nigeria for an official visit. They're not working members of the royal family. I suspect Invictus will want to distance themselves from these two pretty soon as well. It's all about them. So in other news, it looks like other members of the royals are stepping up. The Duchess of Edinburgh has become the first member of the royal family to visit Ukraine since Russia invaded more than 2 years ago. She's a mother of 2. She travelled to Ukraine for a one-day visit to show her solidarity with the men and women and the children, of course, affected by war. And Princess Anne apparently wants to go on Strictly. Don't we all? It's been reported that she's a huge fan. Well, if you just joined me, welcome. This is GBN America. I'm Nana Acquia. Now, the Sussexes may be America's problem now, but Harry is on his way back to the UK next week. The question remains, will there be a reconciliation? Will there be a brotherly reunion? Probably not. But, you know, we're all going to be watching closely to find out what happens when Harry arrives back in the UK next week. So joining me now, Michael Cole. He's here to give us all the details on Harry. Michael, at the moment, no senior members of the royal family are expected to join Prince Harry for the Invictus Games event in the UK. Not even the King. What do you think about that?
Hello, Nana. Well, I think you've summed it up brilliantly. Good news for the King. The doctors are happy with the way the treatment's going. He's returning to more public-facing duties, which is, I know, is what he wants to do. And, of course, there is the Harry problem. He's coming next week for the 10th anniversary service of Thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral, London's cathedral. And that, I think, will be a key moment because we will see whether the King will receive his son. And I think he will. I think there's a good possibility that he will. He will be in town, the King. He has other duties. And he's always made it clear that his door remains open to his younger son. You know, the prodigal is always welcome at home. Of course, he has to be contrite and he has to ask for forgiveness beforehand. But the King will do that. What, of course, will not happen is that there will be any reconciliation with his older brother, William, because Harry and his wife, Meghan, have not taken any pains to withdraw the unkind, cruel, and entirely bogus allegations that they've made, particularly against the Princess of Wales, now undergoing her own treatment for cancer. You would have thought that they might have done that, but they haven't done it. But you also mentioned something else, Nana, which I think is key. You mentioned Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. She is the first royal personage to go to Ukraine. She went there, she did her job, she did it very well. She spoke out against the sexual abuse of women in war zones quite effectively. But, you know, that's exactly the sort of job that Prince Harry should have been doing. That was made for him. He served 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan, and he could go out there, he could talk to the soldiers, he would understand the wounded and the injured. And it was a brilliant innovation when he set up Invictus. He was coming back on a transport plane from Afghanistan with coffins containing the bodies of British soldiers. And he went to work and he set up these games for the injured, the wounded, and the psychologically troubled soldiers, service people. And you know, now there are 22 nations taking part. But this is a revelation, Nana. Do you realize that at the beginning, because this was all pre-Meghan, this is 2014, his brother and his sister-in-law, William and Kate, the Prince and Princess of Wales, were very instrumental through their foundation in encouraging him when he set up the Invictus Games in company with the Ministry of Defence. All of that is forgotten now, but they were, and they will not be at St. Paul's Cathedral. They will be noticeable by their absence. So the possibility of Harry becoming reconciled with his brother, I would say, are between slim and nil, and I would opt for nil. It's going to take. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say also, when you point out that this would have been a great role for Prince Harry, what Sophie was doing there in Ukraine would have been an incredible role for Meghan. Do you know what I mean? Instead of grifting and trying to find little bits of nuggets here and there, Sophie went there to talk, to support women and children and families, which is the kind of thing that Meghan advocates. You know, she advocates for women and children and so on and so forth. But now she's making jam. She's making jam. She's making jam, Michael. But she said she's not coming, though. She's not coming, is she?
You've made a brilliant point, because that's precisely the role of the royal family, to take a lead, to show concern, to act in a way that reflects credit on this country, on this country's people, and to act in a way that shows leadership, compassion, and concern. And that would be exactly what Prince Harry should have been doing. This is all about loss, you know, Nana. It's what he has lost by severing his ties, going into self-imposed exile, first in Canada and then California, which may have been her destination all along. And what this country has lost in the service of a prince of the royal blood. Because if you think back, he was tremendously popular. He had a way with himself. People liked him. He was the happy prince. This was all pre-Meghan. And it's really hard to puzzle why it all went so badly wrong, because she could not have been welcomed more warmly into this country or to the royal family. It was a rare honor when the king offered to walk her down the aisle, because her own father, Thomas, is estranged from her, as are most members of her family. That was a great honor. And the Queen went out of her way, the late Queen Elizabeth II, to make a friend of Doria, her mother, and you saw them together. And when they rode through the crowds in Windsor Great Park, they were 20 deep, the crowds, and every single newspaper in this country, national, Sunday, regional, local, were united as never before in welcoming Meghan as a breath of fresh air to our very diverse nation that we've become. And all of that was cast aside. And I feel sorry for Harry, because he says he loves this country, it's his home, and he loves Britain. But, you know, what makes me saddest of all, really does make me sad, I think of Diana, Princess of Wales, the late and much missed Diana. When those boys were quite young, she made them promise to each other that they would always be friends, that they would always be there for each other. And they made that promise. And I hope that he has time to ponder that when he comes back here, because there are few worse sights in the world than seeing brothers fighting. And when it's brothers of the royal blood, when it's princes fighting, that's so much worse, and it's so regrettable. And actually, Nana, it's all so unnecessary.
Well, of course, but he's bitter and twisted about what happened to his mother, of course, and he believes the press are responsible. He's completely unforgiving in that. He believes that he kind of blames them, which I get it, that they didn't have a great time with the press. The press were not good and have not been good on many occasions, but they were not responsible, in particular the British press were not responsible for the death of his mother. I mean, that's just, you know, that's just the way it is. It's terrible and it's tragic. But that's the way it is. But William and Kate, though, 13 years together, or married even, 13 years married. Isn't that wonderful?
It is. And do you know what? In this country, a 13th wedding anniversary is known as a lace wedding anniversary, when you're supposed to give the couple gifts of textiles, you know, tablecloths or bed linen or something. And so that was their 13th wedding anniversary. We've got a problem next year because a 14th wedding anniversary is an ivory wedding anniversary. Now,
that's my son's name, Ivory.
Well, Prince William has come out very, very strongly against ivory, its vile trade and so on. And he wants all the ivory that's in the royal collections to be destroyed, utterly destroyed. And I think probably that will happen if and when he ascends the throne, succeeds his father as king. But that is an ivory one. But of course, they've been married for 13 years, Nana, but they were together for 7 years before. So in a way, it's the 20th. A very momentous marriage, 3 beautiful children, Prince George, 10, Princess Charlotte, 8, and Prince Louis, who was 6 just a few days ago. But, you know, it's good news about the king. But I do worry about Catherine, because it was said when her diagnosis was made known to us all, she sat there, she wrote her message to us, she delivered it brilliantly, and she gave hope, and she held out her hand to cancer sufferers everywhere. And she said, she told her children, you know, Mummy's going to be okay. But it was initially said that she would be back to public life after Easter. Well after Easter now. So it's good news that the King's treatment is being effective. We have to wonder what's going on with Kate, and obviously at the same time wish her the very best of good fortune and a speedy and complete recovery.
Absolutely, Michael. Michael Cole, thank you so much for talking to me. Lovely to speak to you. That is the brilliant Michael Cole. He's a former BBC royal correspondent joining me there. Right, let's liven it up a bit, shall we? I love this. Princess Anne is wanting to join Strictly Come Dancing. Joining us now is Lady Colin Campbell to tell us more. Lady C, how incredible would it be to see Princess Anne on Strictly? Lady C, really? You'd be good on that as well.
I think Princess Anne would actually be wonderful on Strictly, because she's very athletic and very agile and very nimble. But I'm not sure it would be the right thing for the image of the monarchy to have her. I think it would be a little bit too populistic in my view. But you know, I could be proven wrong very easily if she did it, and because I'm sure she would be a howling success.
But what if she's a really good dancer, though? What if she wins? They can't possibly... She could win if she did it. I'd love to see her on it.
Well, actually, no, I think if she entered, she would most likely win, unless she were an absolutely hopeless dancer, because she would have such a groundswell of support and such goodwill. And I'm pretty sure she would win, because I know she's actually a rather good dancer, because one of my greatest friends and she both had a same interest in a man about 50 years ago. And they were dancing in Scotland. And Princess Anne took the opportunity to kick my friend in her shins. And didn't
The sort of thing I'd expect from Meghan Markle. Speaking of which, Meghan Markle, well, apparently she's not coming to the Invictus ceremony, the 10-year celebration for this wonderful thing that was set up by her husband, a crowning moment, I would say. She's decided that apparently, this is what it's reported, that she's done with Britain. Instead, she's going to travel over 7,000 miles, probably in private jet, to Nigeria for a sort of ceremony, sort of event around the Games. What are your thoughts on all of that, Lady C?
Well, I'm actually delighted that she's had the good sense to not show up for the Invictus Games, because every time she's around, it becomes a dog and pony show where it's all about her and Harry. And so I'm glad that she's not done that. So at least the focus will be on the Invictus Games and the cause, which of course is the worthwhile cause of the injured veterans. But as for Nigeria, I think we are heading into very dangerous territory. And I think that there is actually a comparable between the quasi-pseudo state royal visit that Harry and Meghan will be embarking upon. And let us note that they have announced that it is His Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex, notwithstanding the fact that he is not allowed to use the title His Royal Highness. So from the Nigerian end, this is going to be presented as a quasi, in fact, it will be really though a pseudo royal, almost state visit. But you know, the Windsors in 1937 embarked upon a similar stunt, and it rebounded very adversely against them in Germany. And let us hope that Meghan and Harry's visit to Nigeria doesn't turn out to be quite as farcical as the visit of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor to Germany in 1937, because really, ex-royals, royals who have stepped down from their official position, have really no right and should act and have a duty to actually avoid embarking upon visits of this nature. Now, in fairness to the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, when they did it, it was less than a year after the abdication, and there was an agreement that he would return as the youngest son in ranking and resume royal duties, and that became untenable and it never happened. But Meghan and Harry were given a year to decide. They are out, they chose to be out, and they should remain out. I don't know what you think, Donna, but I think if the visit is a success, it's going to encourage them to do other visits of that nature. And then we'll have Harry and Meghan, the American royals, and then we'll have the royal family, the British royals. I think I think the whole thing is begging for trouble.
Well, we mean, look, they didn't want to be royal, so why don't they just get on with running? I'm sick and tired of seeing them doing what they would have done had they been still in the royal family, and now they're doing exactly the same thing, but outside it, but trading on the titles that they're not allowed to be using. And I think it's going to backfire. I don't think people are going to respect that. And people are going to be looking and saying, why didn't you just stay in the royal family? So American Riviera Orchard, Meghan's brand, this long-winded thing that you've got to type into a search engine to find it, which I don't think anyone can be bothered. She's only selling jam. But apparently Netflix are considering, this has just been reported, that some sort of partnership with her. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I don't see how it's possible because I know as a fact how these things work, because many years ago Arnold Scarsi tried to get me to do something on the shopping channel, and for every item that is for sale you need to already have a full stock of it in case it is successful. So I don't see that Netflix is in the business of stocking items, and then of course you have to have the items all prepared, then and ready to go. They have to be in warehouses. There's a whole process that is extremely involved and requires a great financial outlay. And I'm sorry, Netflix is not a merchandising entity. It's not the shopping channel. It makes films, it makes television shows. So I can't see how they can be in business with them, except as filming something that,
Yes.
but that doesn't make sense either, because
No.
it has to be done through a shopping channel or well, I suppose Netflix could end up being the equivalent of the merchandise of the shopping channel, but they're not going to put up the tens and tens of millions that would be required to have stock in place for the many items that a right oik is going to be actually offering. Because, I mean, let's...
Lady C, I know you always get a little dig in there somewhere. I love it. But a lot of people are saying there's a lot of scepticism actually about this whole American Riviera orchard. I think she's envisaging, Meghan Markle's envisaging that it might be a bit like Goop and end up being a big selling brand. But I don't see it. She's going to need a lot of money. She's going to need a lot of people behind her. And I think the Netflix idea was more of a sort of promotional thing, so they might help to promote it. But then if it goes wrong, she'll blame them.
Well, the fact of the matter is she's having a wonderful innings with lots of publicity over nothing, because she's had the most amazing run of publicity on having bottled and given away a maximum of 50 bottles of jam. But is that going to convert? Maybe it will convert into the successful entity that the 40 by 40 arrangement, or maybe it's going to be as successful as Spotify or as Lemonade. I mean, I just don't see anything that Meghan does being a great success, because she's not likable. I mean,
No.
the thing about Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow is Martha Stewart is rarely capable. Gwyneth Paltrow was already an Oscar-winning, Emmy-winning, established star, and she's never polluted her brand with attacking her ex-husband, attacking her family. Meghan's mired in distasteful controversy. That is not saleable.
I think that is the problem, isn't it, really? She may think that bringing out a brand and she's got a good audience, but she's tarnished her own brand as far as I can see. Lady Colin Campbell, thank you so much for joining me. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. That is royal biographer Lady Colin Campbell. Well, for more on the royal family, head to gbnews.com/America. I'm Nana Akwe.